Hello and welcome to Ecoholics Academia. I am Asaveri and today we are going to learn about regional trade agreements. Now the regional trade agreements, often known as RTAs, are actually agreements between two or more countries to facilitate trade. Through regional trade agreements, the member countries or the signatories can reduce and sometimes completely eliminate the restrictions or the trade barriers or tariffs imposed on the imports of these member countries, and thus liberalizing trade among them. Initially, the regional trade agreements only resorted to the tariff restrictions. But as we saw liberalization happening on a global scale, these regional trade agreements also changed drastically. Now, today, we see negotiations and agreements that happen which not only cover the tariff restrictions but also cover a whole other aspects. There are multiple policy areas which are covered to facilitate investment and trade of goods and services, and sometimes they also cover the behind the border regulations like intellectual property rights, government procurement policies, competition policies, and many more. These regional trade agreements are standardly of four types. The first one being free trade area. Now what is free trade area? So free trade area is a region of free trade agreement between two or more countries, and which happens to facilitate trade. Now the facilitation of trade happens because there is an enormous reduction of import quotas among these signatories of the free trade area. Also, the member countries are free to impose whatever restrictions or import quotas they want to put on the non-member countries. So this is what is the free trade area. Now coming on to the next type of the regional trade agreement, it is custom union. A custom union is a free trade area plus an agreement of non-tariff and tariff restrictions on the non-member countries of custom union. So the custom union is different than free trade area in two ways. First being, in the custom union, each member country replaces their tariff schedule from the commonly decided tariff schedule which is agreed to by all the member countries, and that is imposed on the external countries or the non-member countries. And the second is that unlike custom unions, the free trade area does not involve any amount of trade on agricultural goods, services and capital flows. So this is why free trade area is different from custom union. Now the third one is the common market. Let's talk about common market. A common market represents a very high degree of economic integration. It basically means that it is a custom union, but along with being a custom union means that along with putting a trade barrier or a tariff barrier on the imports of the rest of the world, these member countries have a very unique feature. They allow mobility of labor and capital among these member countries or member signatories. So there is a high degree of labor and capital mobility which ensures a high efficiency of allocation of resources among the member countries. But there's a small problem about the mobility of labor. So what happens if the wage difference or the wage differential among these member countries is very high? Then what would happen is that the labor would migrate from one country to another, and which will lead to a great effect on the national wage levels of the member countries. So this is what is common market. And finally, the fourth pillar or the fourth standard regional trade agreement is the economic union. Along with all the features of free trade area, custom union and common market, there is a special feature which is added to making an economic union. This special feature is basically unification of monetary as well as fiscal policies. So the dilution of decision making power is also put in the hands of the member countries, which means that there is a very high amount of economic integration among all these member countries. So this was what was about the regional trade agreements and the 4 pillars of regional trade agreements. We'll bring to you more topics and more concepts in the next videos. Till then, stay tuned to Ecoholics Academia.